allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Needles, can you take roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Bacco,
Here.
Commissioner Whitaker, Commissioner Gaudioso,
Here.
Commissioner Rakowski,
Here.
Commissioner Neary, Mike Pierce,
Here.
Lisa Catania, and myself, George Needles, present.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the Board of Commissioners meeting dated October 8th, 2020, starting at 7:30 p.m. At this time, residents who are not able to attend the meeting in person may comment during this time by dialing 571-748-4021. Again, the call-in number is 571-748-4021. The code to enter is 220-719-877#. Again, the code is 220-719-877#. To unmute your phone, please dial *6. After unmuting your phone, state your name, your address, then begin your comment. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak, and you will be placed back on mute after your comment. I will give it a minute or so at this time. All right, let the record show that there were no call-ins for tonight's meeting. At this time, I will take citizen comments for the members of our residents, for members of our community that are present here tonight. And I'll start up with an address.
My name is Ernie Trissino, 3529 Greenwood Avenue, Boothwyn. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Jerry and I are here. We're both neighbors on Greenwood Avenue, right off of Bethel. And I want to know a couple of questions. Number one, and thanks for letting me speak. I want to know, are you commissioners aware of all the damage to the properties from the recent rain and the floods behind our homes on Greenwood Avenue?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are up to speed with it.
Okay, well then the second question I have, what are the commissioners going to do about the problem?
Is this the property that had cut down the trees?
No.
Go ahead, Joe.
The properties along Greenwood Avenue between Bethel and Greenwood until you start going up the hill have incurred a lot of water in that last storm. But the last big storm, the storm that was the 200-year storm that Friday afternoon, I think it was, and we received something like 4 inches of rain in 15 minutes or half an hour. George, could you correct me on that? So there isn't a whole lot of things that you can do to build a system that would compensate for that kind of storm. That's the first thing. It's alleged that the township did some work, which we didn't do any work over there. As you know, we proposed doing some work 2 years ago, and the tenor of the meeting was that a number of people didn't want us to do the work. All I needed was one person to say no, and I wouldn't have gotten the easements to do that. So there was never any work done. And essentially, and I could defer to the engineer if I state this incorrectly, we were not putting more water into the stream when we were going to do that work. We were just going to manage the water that went into the stream. There, you know, there isn't a lot that the commissioners can do to stabilize that area. Do you want to speak to that, Lisa, or?
I'm sorry. As Commissioner Neary said, we've known about this problem for quite a while. I've been here for quite a long time, and we've heard this over and over. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we had done a study for the Greenwood area, put together a plan. A lot of that area, because of the topography, the storm pipe needed to go through properties, and because we needed to get easements for those stormwater facilities, we had the town hall meeting. As the commissioner said, the best we could do was listen, and when most people said they would not give us easements, and they're the ones that aren't affected, unfortunately. What you try to do is you collect the water upstream so that the downstream isn't getting inundated. And unfortunately, it just couldn't happen. There's no way for us, as you know, water doesn't go uphill. So we've got to take the low points and take the pipes out through the low points, and that's through properties.
I don't
There
know
are
how much-
drainage swales there now, and I would have thought that they would have been happy to have those maintained and have less water going through them, quite frankly, but it didn't happen that way.
Okay, just one more brief comment, if I may. As you know, or are well aware of, that the bridge on Mill and Bethel, okay, it's not passable, okay? And we're talking about a 100-year storm, but this happens every summer. So this is not a freak occurrence, okay? So I'm just trying to explain that somebody's got to be aware of it. And the last point is, the reason I'm here, in the paper, Daily Times said the EPA were supposed to be here. So I guess that's not correct. So I'm just wondering how much pollutant is falling down here. I lost 22 yards of my back property. I don't know what's in that soil. So how do we rectify that?
Well, number one, to make a comment about your first comment with the bridge, I last month sent a letter to the district administrator for PennDOT. That is a PennDOT bridge. At the time that it was built, they did not have to convey a 100-year storm event. So we sent a letter for three different areas of the township that we were having issue, and they were all related to culverts within the PennDOT road systems. So we haven't had any response from that as of yet. As far as the sediment that's getting into the stream, the DEP has put together a plan. It's called the MS4 program. And over a next 5-year period, we will be required to remove 10% of the total suspended solids, i.e. sediment, from the system. We've already started doing some of that. We've received a grant for the Bergdahl Park, the basin that's there. We just did work there. We have 2 others in the works. Jennifer Way is in the works right now, and they will remove sediment from the stormwater prior to it getting into the system. As well, each developer that comes in now must also do the same. So our ordinances read that they've got to remove that sediment because they too are under NPDES requirements.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Hi, my name is Jerry D'Angelo. I live at 3531 Greenwood Avenue in Booth Wynn. And my house backs up to the creek. And I have a video here I'd like you all to take a peek at and tell me why this is happening. I have no use for half of my property. Property runs from the front to the back, 300 feet plus. And I can't use, matter of fact, my wife and I just made an appeal to the reassessment office. We have an appointment with them so I can show them this video and tell them I don't want to pay taxes on property I can't use. And you guys can say it only happens once every 100 years. I don't care. I spoke with Mr. Neary about this issue. He had a meeting, I don't even know how long ago. And what they talked about were easements, which is fine. You know, I told him then, if you want to have an easement to my property, I can give it to you right now. His response to me when I called him about the flood in the back of my house, he told me they canceled, they had money allocated for storm water runoff. They didn't talk about what they were going to do at that meeting. They talked about easements. Now, there are basically 5 or 6 houses total that are, in mine being the lowest and closest to the creek. And I'd like to know why, if the money was allocated, why wasn't it utilized?
Joe, is this the?
Okay,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
let me straighten out. At that meeting, we discussed not only easements, we discussed the plan. As you well know, we discussed the entire plan, and the engineer was the one who presented it, okay? When we talked about, at the end, towards the 2/3 of the meeting, we talked about the need to get easements, which is what I reminded you of. And I think my memory is different, but I don't believe that some of the residents on Greenwood who were there wanted to grant us the easements.
How
to
many
walk.
people were there, Joe? How many people were actually at that
There were
meeting?
about 20 to 30 people.
And
I have the
I-
list at home, I
I
think.
asked you, when I spoke with you on the telephone, when I was having a flood in the back of my house,
Mhm.
did the committee contact all the people whose houses back up to that creek and get an individual approval or denial of easements? And you said no. I want to know why. You're looking at 5 or 6
Because-
houses?
Because,
Send a
Jerry,
letter and tell me whether you were going to authorize us to come onto your, that's what an easement is. I know you know that. It gives you the right to come onto my property to do work, but you never told me in layman's language what work was going to be done.
You-
Am I not being accurate with that statement?
I would beg to differ because I believe that the
I asked
president,
you for the minutes of
Okay,
that
are
meeting
you-
so I could see them
Are you
and
gonna
know
let-
what was discussed.
Jerry,
and
I
what
don't want
was
to
not.
interrupt you, but may I finish? You asked me a question, and I would like to finish,
I'd be happy to have you do that.
okay? My recollection of the meeting was that there were at least 20 to 30 people here. We discussed the fact that we would need easements later on in the presentation, but there was a presentation about the amount of work that would be done and how the water was going to be diverted.
I don't recall hearing any of that.
Well, you
If
have
I
2
may,
people, go ahead.
There was actually presentation boards that were set up for every so every section of pipe was shown. We had presentation boards.
Yeah, I
on the
remember
walls.
looking at that.
And we discussed those those various boards with what was going to be done in each block of the project.
Can you give me the minutes of that?
I will tell you, however, that what you're referring to as far as your backyard flooding, if you are next to a creek, there is a floodplain that is associated with that creek.
I know that.
Okay? And in that area, in storm events, in particular, a 100-year storm, your yard will flood to some extent. I don't have the extent here. You can actually look for yourself. If you go on the FEMA Map Center site, the Map Center site will actually have, you can put your address in, and you can see for yourself what the floodplain is, or the extent of the floodplain that FEMA has determined is accurate. If you don't have flood insurance, if you don't have a mortgage, you're not required to have flood insurance. It's a good idea if you're in that floodplain to have it, whether your property's in there or not. You get a flood certificate saying that your house is outside of that floodplain. and it's a lot cheaper. But reality is the water has to have somewhere to go
I know that.
as part of a storm event, in particular when we have the heavier storms. Unfortunately, what we used to see, and I think I started the conversation at that meeting, what we used to see is when I was growing up, you had storms that would last all day, and it was a lighter rain. Our weather patterns are changing, and our weather patterns are much more fierce. So you have a huge burst of rain, and it's very short. We don't have those day-long rains anymore. So we're seeing a different weather pattern, and we're seeing differences in the amount of water that comes down very quickly.
Would you do
And
me a
that's the
favor?
change.
I understand everything you're saying, and I appreciate what you're telling me. What I don't understand is when I asked Mr. Neary for the minutes of that meeting, so I myself could read them and see what was actually discussed, I never got it.
So I think I can answer that. So there are no minutes for that meeting because that was not a public meeting of the Board of Commissioners. That was
I'm gonna
a,
ask another
that was
question right now.
a general informational town hall meeting, which we had with a group of residents. We typically have them when we're proposing a project. We use them to go over the scope of the projects as well as to gauge the public on any types of easements we'll need. Because obviously there's a cost associated with every easement. It's above and beyond the project cost. So we need to make sure that everybody's going to be in agreement before we can do that outlay of cash.
Okay, I understand that, and I thank you for that explanation. I know what an easement is. I know what it does. It gives you the right to come onto my property to do work. Am I correct?
And to
Okay,
potentially pay-
nobody contacted me individually or anybody else on Greenwood Avenue to get a yes or a no answer from them when it proposed to get easements. No one. And I asked Mr. Neary about that. And he said it would be too expensive. And I asked for the minutes of the meeting so I could refresh my own memory as to what actually was said and done. And I never got that either. And I'm asking the committee now, I'd like to get that.
As Mr. Needles just explained to you, there were no minutes taken at that meeting. Okay,
Is it being taken to this one?
that's because it's a
Yes.
public meeting with all 5 of the commissioners here. That was a town hall meeting.
Okay, I'd like to ask you another question then, Joe. Could you reschedule the meeting you had with the neighbors? And I'll make sure that everybody shows up. And everybody will know exactly what was said and what was done or not done.
Well, first I'd have to get approval from the board as to whether they want to do the stormwater management project again. Secondly, with the COVID experience, we are trying to cut expenses at this point, and not engage in capital projects.
Can I show you guys something? It'll take 2
We-
seconds
no.
for me to show that.
I understand. I live right off of Larkin Road. I have the same situation in my backyard. When it rains, it floods. And I understand what you're going through, but there's very limited, as Mrs. Catania explained, there's very limited things that the board can do. Sure.
Can you tell me whether this would be a normal situation?
I can't because I don't know what I don't know what the elevation is of your backyard to be able to say that it is a normal situation or it is not. And I say that because it's all based on elevations, not a width. The width is based on the elevations themselves. And when was that?
It's almost 4 feet deep.
And when was that? With Isaias or the Friday night?
200 years. Okay, would that be normal, engineering?
It could very well be, yes.
I just wasted my breath for 10 minutes.
No, not
And I
necessarily.
like Mr. Beard to take up the request to have the board decide whether you can send me the minutes or pictures or whatever you guys need to do.
Again, as Mr. Needles indicated, there was no minutes taken for that night because it was as Mr. Needles indicated, there was no minutes taken for that night because it was a town hall meeting.
How about right now?
Right to know what?
What's
There-
going
there's-
on?
We-
Okay,
we-
Jerry,
We're
you're-
talking about it now.
Your wife was sent an email. Let me
I know
finish.
she did. I know, and it was
Can I-
with my approval that she sent.
Okay, and Mr. Needles directed her that she needed to fill out a form, a right to know form. To date, she has not received that.
Again, the information in the initial unofficial request was for work that we had done, which there was no work done. So unfortunately, I'm going to deny the request because the information requested does not exist.
Okay, the work was terminated, according to Mr.
It
Leary.
never worked. It never happened.
I know it did. But, Joe, did you find out who did all the stormwater runoff repairs on Greenwood Avenue, in and around that area?
I don't want to belabor this because we have to move on with our meeting.
Okay.
However, the fact remains that, as I indicated to you, there was no stormwater management work done. There were repairs done, for example, in Gary Mitchell's yard to an existing pipe that had deteriorated.
I understand.
That was not additional work that was done. That was corrective action that was
But when
taken.
you canceled,
I didn't cancel
you
it.
told me you never went forward with it because you didn't get enough people to give you the easements. that
No,
you-
that's
you said
not
you
what I
needed.
said. That is not what I said. I said to you that the tenor of that meeting was that a number of people did not want the work to proceed. A number of people did not want to install rain gardens, which were part of the plan on their property because they would have to maintain them. And that a number of people expressed that they did not like the plan. So what is the point of going forward? What is the point of going to every resident's house? All I need is one person to say no, Jerry.
I think we have a great understanding of your situation. So I thank you for coming out tonight.
Lisa, one question. If PennDOT was to do repairs to the bridge, would it help that situation?
Probably not. They would probably have to reconstruct the bridge. I don't know what kind of shoal is in the bed of the creek right at this point. I don't, if they would do some of that, it may alleviate some of the flooding issue. But I haven't, I can't really tell you exactly at this point.
I mean, if we could try to keep the pressure on them and maybe we could help them.
Bethel and Larkin, I know, that's only designed for a 25-year storm event. So, you know, as you look at some of these older bridges, that's what the conveyance requirement was at the time.
Would anybody else like to come up and speak tonight? All right, let the record show there are no more citizens' comments, and we'll move on to our regular meeting. Can I have the approval of the minutes of the September 10th, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion is carried. Have a reading of the proclamation recognizing the month of October as National Compliance Month, which will be from me. So, this month is Code Enforcement Proclamation. I have a proclamation. It's a little lengthy, and I just like to read it into the record. Whereas code enforcement officers provide for safety and welfare of the citizens throughout the United States through the enforcement of local codes and ordinances facing various issues of building, zoning, housing, animal control, environmental, health, and life safety. And whereas the code enforcement officers often have a challenging and demanding role and often do not receive recognition of the job they do, improving living and working conditions for residents and businesses of local communities. And whereas the role of many code enforcement officers have expanded in recent years with increased number of foreclosed and abandoned homes in communities impacting economically. And whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated and highly qualified professionals who share the goals of preventing neighborhood deterioration, enhancing and ensuring safety, and preserving property values through knowledge and application of housing, zoning, and nuisance codes and ordinance. And whereas code enforcement officers often have highly visible roles in communities they serve and regularly interact with a variety of staff officials, county officials, first responders, legislative boards, commissioners, agencies, and bodies. And whereas code enforcement officers are called upon to provide quality customer service and excellence to the residents of businesses of the community in which they serve. And whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement want to recognize and honor code enforcement officers and professionals all across the United States and bring awareness to the importance of code enforcement to the communities of the United States. And whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement was established in 1988 for the purpose of providing ongoing training and support for code enforcement professionals working in the United States. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed the month of October 2020 a National Code Compliance Month, and call upon municipalities and communities to join recognitions of expressing their appreciation for the dedication and service by the individuals who serve as code enforcement officers, adopted this 8th day, October 2020.
Second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item up on the agenda is, I'd like to have somebody consider a motion authorizing the township manager to advertise a special meeting of the Upper Chichester Town Board of Commissioners for 7:30 PM on Thursday, October 29th. Just let the residents know and the audience know that this is for our tax collector. Our current tax collector has resigned, and we need to fill that position by that date and time. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Can I have someone consider a motion denying the subdivision land development application waiver request of Wells Fargo at 3400 Chichester Avenue, Boothwyn, PA?
Second.
Question.
Yes.
Did they ever come in front of the construction committee just to, just to see how this could work? You have a business that's been here for probably 50 years or so. I realize this is all because of the lawsuit with them and ADA. They're trying to make the improvements. They're requesting a waiver. They're tearing the building down for some more additional parking for the ADA. All the pictures we got from it is very vague on a lot of it. I think, my opinion, it should have went to the construction committee to say, hey, how can we make this work? They're willing to make things green, shorten up a driveway. The recommendation or something could have said not shorten it up so much. It's my understanding the building that's being torn down is actually being down for good, and so the parkings could go there, and then the Mac machine's going to be, my opinion only, for what I'm understanding is it's going to be up against the building just like Sunny's has. So they'd have more than one building that they have to, because of this lawsuit, they're willing to do whatever they have to do to get it. But I think we could have worked with them a little better than just denying everything. And I thought the construction committee with people would give them the right direction first and not just deny everything. And I think it's has nothing to do with whether they made 18 billion or 15 billion or 100 billion. They were sued from 88 or they got whatever 100 banks to do. This bank's been in Upper Chi for 50 years, maybe longer. It hasn't just been this bank, it's been other banks throughout the years. I just don't think we should deny that part, but work with them to get what's right permit-wise to make it work with the stormwater management, but not have to go through land development when all you're doing is tearing the building down and moving it up against the building. You're not even adding another building for the Mac machine.
Well,
Unless somebody's telling me different, I don't see any building being built on the building, they're attaching it to the building.
Well, I'd just like to make some comments. So, the reason why we should grant a waiver is for financial hardship. So I don't believe Wells Fargo's falls into a financial hardship situation. Number two, if we grant them the waiver, then it doesn't go through land development, which means it will not go before the planning board, where the planning board is going to review what type of improvements they want, what they're going to do. And if we waive the land development application, we lose any opportunity to make any type of improvements at all. So I think it's wise for it to go before the planning board, have them review it to see if there's any improvements that could be made.
But they're not-
That's
they're not
my
building
opinion.
nothing. They're tearing down and adding parking spaces.
Yes,
What are
but
they building?
they're disturbing over 1,000 square feet, which automatically enacts our stormwater. So if we grant them and just give them a grading permit, they're gonna have to rework the entranceway off of Chichester Avenue, which they're talking going from a double lane to a single lane. So as we mentioned last week, there might be some concerns with queuing the traffic lanes. So I don't think we should grant the recommendation. There's 5 commissioners here. If I get outvoted, then I get outvoted, but that's my opinion.
I just think it should have went to the construction committee to work it out before the waiver or try to figure it out, because there's no building. Your impervious is a building that's sitting there right now. You're tearing it down and putting blacktop down for that. Moving the ATM up against a building. Yes, you're shortening the width of that driveway, but
But
I don't know if anybody else knows, but when
I-
they back out of that area by the Mac machine, they back right into the driveway anyway.
let Ms.
today.
Catania
If
comment.
if I may, this project actually started prior to you enacting the new construction committee. This has been a back and forth through your coordinators for over a year. Quite frankly, from day one, when they started looking at this, they didn't want to do any stormwater management. Because of the amount of impervious coverage that they were removing in earth disturbance, which your ordinance 490 indicates that if it's over 1,000 square feet, they must do stormwater management. They chose not to do it. They came back maybe 3 or 4 months after that with all different questions, the same questions over and over again. Quite frankly, if they would have gone through the planning commission, gone through the land development process, they probably would have been built by now. The ATM machine is not being put next to the building. The ATM machine is being put in the parking space area and the sidewalk area that goes to the building. However, it is not being attached to the building. It's actually separated in the same area where it is presently located. Just wanted to let you know that. The other part of this is in them narrowing that roadway, the driveway in, they are actually taking the 2 lanes that go to the drive-through. And they don't have that much queue. They don't have much area to queue cars. So cars go in there. There's not going to be any way for another car to bypass that, because actually they have that ability now. So they're the kinds of questions that I think the planning commission could answer. And it's up to the board whether you want to give that waiver or not.
Yeah,
As I
but whether,
mentioned
whether we had that construction committee when they first started 2 years ago, we had it now. And they kept coming back. I'm looking at a plan, and I'm not an engineer and all that, but I know exactly what you're saying. You got 2 lanes right there now, but you could queue it over, maybe not take out the whole second driveway and queue it over to the right so they can keep going out where the people, it's like a bypass. You can go
Well, that's
around
what-
them and go out.
Well, that's what the land development process would work out at.
Which
So
takes another delay, which would be another 6 months before they get the project done.
it's not a delay on our part. As Ms. Catania already stated, this has been on
This is
an
what we do
ongoing
with
project with
businesses in
them.
Upper Chi. This is what we do with businesses in Upper Chi.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion is carried 4-1. Our next couple of resolutions and motions will be read by our Vice Chairman, Joe Bacco.
Consider a resolution authorizing Michael Gaudioso, President, Board of Commissioners, to sign all documents related to the maintenance agreement 0631131 for an emergency access door in the sound wall at Floral Lane with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation.
Second?
This motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a motion accepting maintenance agreement number 0631131 for an emergency access door in the sound wall of Floral Lane with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation.
This motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a motion authorizing the township solicitor to prepare an ordinance vacating the unnamed alley that runs from Columbia Avenue to I-95. Second.
This motion and a second, are there any comments? Go ahead.
Nicole, this is there is an unnamed alleyway that's behind what's the A+ store.
Sunoco.
Yeah, the
Correct.
Sunoco.
Okay.
So you remember they came about a year ago, they were hot on a project that they wanted to go and they disappeared. One of the issues that they had at the time was that their deed did not include a strip of land that they have been able to acquire that property and get that cleaned up in their deed. So they went ahead and did all that work and they finished it. So now they're coming back for this part, which was their initial request that they need to get done.
I remember. Okay, thank you.
If there's no other comments, there's a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried. Ms. Commissioner Whitaker, I believe you're up next.
Thank you. Consider a motion accepting the Fury Road Field House fee waiver request for the Chichester School District basketball team.
This motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried. Commissioner Ed Rakowski, you have the next two.
I'll be moving to read the National Fire Safety Awareness Month proclamation. Whereas the Township of Upper Chichester is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Upper Chichester. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally, nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires kill 23,735 people in the United States in 2016. According to the National Fire Protection Association and the fire departments in the United States respond to 352,000 home fires. And whereas the majority of the U.S. fire deaths, 4 out of 5, occurs at home each year. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Upper Chichester residents shall install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area and on every level of the home. And whereas Upper Chichester Township residents should listen for the sound of the smoke alarm. When it sounds, respond by going outside immediately to a designated meeting place. And whereas Upper Chichester Township residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas the 2020 Fire Prevention Week theme, Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen, works to educate everyone about the simple but important actions they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe in the kitchen. And whereas Upper Chichester Township also recognizes the efforts of the Upper Chichester Fire Department's Company 10 in the education and prevention effort for the community as whole. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Township of Upper Chichester does proclaim October 4th through the 10th and the month of October 2020 as Fire Safety Awareness Week and month throughout this township, and urges all the people of Upper Chichester to practice fire safety to prepare themselves and families for potential case of a fire emergency. So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and motion is carried.
Next one, I move for the approval of the distribution of the 2020 state relief fire allocation of $96,102.26, which goes to the Boothwyn Fire Company Relief Association, the Ogden Fire Company Relief Association, and the Reliance Hook and Ladder Relief Association in the amount of $32,034.08.
Second?
So motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and motion is carried. For the balance, we'll have Right. For the balance of the motions, we'll have Commissioner Joe Neary read.
Thank you, Mr. President. Consider a motion terminating the towing agreement between Upper Chichester Township and Twin Oaks Towing.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Okay. Okay.
I just want to say, feel obligated. He drove for us for many years. He donated equipment and stuff, and, you know, said it was done.
So noted. Thank you. Motion is carried 4-1.
Consider a motion entering into an agreement with Luongos Towing Incorporated for township towing services.
So motion and a second. Any
Question.
comments?
Yeah, question. I mean, I know we've been talking about this for the last months. I agree about the termination of the other one. It went on for months. I know we talked about it. I got all three proposals, but I never really heard a discussion on feeling with the board about how we came up with, I know we're using Luongo as an alternate right now, but there was really no, we never talked about it. And I understand we have to move forward on this, but I looked at the contract, the numbers are a little higher from an old one. Locations are different from other ones. We don't have the questions. I mean, is he coming into Upper Chi? He may be coming in Upper Chi. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know for a fact.
What do you mean? Is he coming into Upper
I have
Chi?
a lot in Upper Chi itself instead of in Lenai, where he's presently now. And is it big enough in Lenai for Upper Chi?
Yes, my understanding is, I don't think he's coming into Upper Chi. He'll be having he'll be operating out of his current lots that he has now. He's very well experienced. Other municipalities have been using him, and he has a good reputation.
And I can comment on that. I had a conversation with Mr. Luongo, and he told me if he got this contract, he would be looking into a place in Upper Chichester. And he told me I could say that.
Has anybody been to his current location? And other than the chief? Oh, yeah, okay. I know the chief's there. So we just voted to terminate the other contract. Is there a time frame that we have to assign this, because he's already appointed as the towing that has, during this whole limbo time, he was already appointed.
So we need to notify the current towing company that we're enacting the 30 days. So from 30 days from tonight, the agreement will expire. So you would want to appoint and get the contract put together in some fashion prior to that 30 days being up. The reason that Luongos is going on is because that is on as the de facto name, is because they are the one that are currently doing it. We did receive two other proposals, one from Clayton Towing and one from Rob Towing. So I think that if the board is interested in moving on any of them at point, I would suggest we do it relatively soon. I I think that you could probably go to the November meeting if you wanted to further look, but you're going to be cutting the times close with the contract.
Well, the meeting at September 29th could be advertised as any business that comes before the board, correct? October, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
October 29th is advertised as a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners.
So
you
then-
could act on business.
Yeah, I would ask if we could wait a little, just because I also, I think that anyone that has any questions or concerns should go out there to see the lot in person. I received photos from, that facility and, cars stacked on top of cars. If we're gonna have requirements for towing companies that are in town, then we should make sure that we require that for all companies, or anyone that we're looking at. So that would just be my request.
I don't think we have any other ones in town right now.
I just think this is a stall tactic. I'm fine with voting on it tonight. And if there's 3 votes to appoint Luongo tonight, I would be more than happy to do it.
But I think it's offensive by calling it a stall tactic, but it's not a stall tactic, because this is the first time we actually discussed it.
No, it's not, Ed. We've been discussing it for the past
We've been
several months. I
discussing
discussed it last
Tojo.
week.
We've been discussing Tojo.
I discussed it last week that we need to move on with this.
Okay,
Right,
so we're moving
notifying
on.
him. So let's do this. Since we have to do 30 days then, 30 days out.
I'm not doing
We're
it
giving
now.
him 30 days notice, and then we can, then appoint someone else. So I make a motion to table it.
Second.
All right, a yes vote is to table, a no vote is not to table. Mr. Needles, can you take a roll call, please?
Explain that again, I missed.
A yes vote is to table it, a no vote is not to table it.
To the 29th when we have
The reason for tabling it, can I ask?
Yeah, I
The-
just want to do a little more research myself.
I'll table it.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Motion is carried 4-1.
Consider a motion accepting the proposal from Delco.
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Consider a motion accepting the proposal from Delco Alarm for fire protection and security systems of the township buildings, and furthermore approve the expenditure from the capital reserve account.
Question, George, does that, are we in a contract with somebody else that we would have to give notice or anything like that, or?
No, what happened was Tyco was bought out by
Right.
Johnson Controls. And at that time, we had them come out to do a comprehensive audit of our buildings. Through the audit, they found that we were in non-compliance with various fire codes. And they presented us with a proposal to upgrade the system so that we were in compliance. However, they went through a transition in that company, and we never were able to actually get them out to do the work. So we went ahead and solicited other businesses, and Delco Alarm was the recommendation from the highway department after speaking to them.
So the one quote I saw, the $212, I think, per month, that's for down here and up there in the police station, everything, all 3 for the monitoring?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Because I saw something in the backside, it was separate.
The way they had broken them down previously was that the bill went for each building, so. And 212, that sounds about what we were paying for monitoring service just for this building previously.
Okay, because I saw the other one for the other one. Okay, that's fine. I'm good.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Motion accepting the proposal from USA Payroll for the various HR and payroll-related services for Upper Chichester Township.
Second it?
Motion and a second, any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to, George, I thought you wanted to hold up on that when we had discussed this earlier. I'm in favor of doing this, but.
So I want to get the formality of the agreement out of the way, but we are not going to transition over until the new year. We have too much stuff going on, but it does give us time to gather some of the data that we have and get it into the format that they need to be able to get it into their systems.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a resolution approving the distribution of the 2020 state municipal pension aid in the amount of $354,515.99, all of which will be going to the police pension plan.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Resolution number 44.
Consider a motion authorizing the township solicitor to prepare an ordinance establishing an other post-employment benefits trust for eligible township retirees.
Second.
The motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a motion authorizing the township manager to advertise a finance committee meeting for 6 PM Thursday, October 22nd.
Second. You bringing dinner there at 6 o'clock?
7 o'clock that night is the planning commission, so we are going to have it here though. So.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a motion accepting the appointment of Thomas E. Trevelino to serve as a fire police officer in Upper Chichester Township.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a motion approving the trash refund list 2020-10 in the amount of $196.
So motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, motion is carried.
Consider a motion approving the list of bills in the amount of $496,227.36.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and motion is carried.
And that's all I have for the moment.
Thank you, Commissioner Neary. At this time, we're going to move on to our commissioners and professional comments. I would like to start with our professionals, so Mr. Mike Pierce.
Report in the file, two significant issues that at the board's request I attended zoning hearing board meeting, which was on Monday night to represent the township related to the 3300 Market Street businesses. That matter was continued to the November zoning hearing board at the applicant's request. The second item that was considered at that was for the 2300 Market Street, the application of aerial sign. I am pleased to report that we represented the township, and also Mr. Ramawi acted as a brief witness at my call. And after questioning by myself, the application for the installation of the large sign at 2300 Market Street was denied. So that was, I know that that was a concern of the Board of Commissioners, that they were concerned about the size and the magnitude of that sign, and we were able to represent the board in that, and it was denied.
Thank you.
The second item that I need to report on that happened after the caucus meeting was that there was a case pending in the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania related to the for lack of a better word, the taxation of some of the billboards, which would mean revenue to the township and the school district. And I'm pleased to report that we had intervened on behalf of the township and were in favor of the request that was originally started through the Chester Upland School District and also the the Chichester School District. And we were, by unanimous decision, the approval was made to be able to have a form of taxation on those billboard revenues. So that will mean at least some additional revenue to the township and a significant amount to the various school boards. So that was a lot of work. We were not the lead counsel on that, but we did participate, and I did discuss it with lead counsel. And that was a very novel approach, and it did make it all the way to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and we were actually won that case. So those are the two main things. Other than the other matters are all in my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pierce?
Just to note on the billboard case, as you remember, we actually own a billboard, and we entered into a contract with a company years ago to put that billboard up, and we anticipated, hopefully, that that would be the case. So we structured that lease so that if that was to happen, that would not affect our revenue from that billboard. So we will, the company absorbs that fee, and we do the taxation, and we do not. So.
Good job.
If there's no other questions for our solicitor, we'll move on to our engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. You do have a copy of my report. As everyone can see, Wawa has started their work. They're currently doing the stormwater facilities so that they can get the transfer for the schoolhouse completed. Kate's Glen, the vacant lots were seeded and mulched this week, so that's completed. We still have to remove some silt that's in the basin, and that will complete that project. The AutoZone, we received plans today for AutoZone, and Alex is currently reviewing those, so we should be getting the cost estimate for the agreements, et cetera, completed shortly. Costa Homes, this afternoon, I also received a new plan based on my red line to get that completed. I will be reaching out to the COA president. I'd like to go through with him where they want the trees versus us just putting the trees somewhere. And we'll get that moving, and hopefully that will resolve the Creekside Village townhome issues with the stormwater. Otherwise, I can just report general progress.
So- Any questions for our engineer?
Just one, Lisa, I sent an email later this afternoon because Amanda's in your response to her. And they're still not addressing that issue with the driveway, with the collapse. I'm specifically asking about that because they seem not to want to address it. And I just want to make sure that we, guarantee that that's going to get done.
The fact is, either he does it or we don't release that
Fine,
money,
right.
and we'll do it.
Perfect.
Lisa, the only question I have is the email I sent today about the questioning, the question about whether or not there's any open space that was being dedicated back to the township from AutoZone. I just want to make sure, I want to clarify that that's not the case.
There is not any open space on that lot. Currently, they are providing the requested area that is designated as right-of-way. Should we, at some later point, just as we have done with IBEW, some later point, we do the extension from Mill Road.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
If there's no other questions for our engineer, we'll move on to our township manager, George Needles.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to thank the board for voting to authorize the solicitor to prepare a other post-employment benefits trust. I think that's a big move in the right direction for ensuring the long-term financial health of the township. And just kudos to the staff and all the commissioners who've been working with the department heads, the budgets. Everybody's been coming back in, refining their numbers. So things are starting to look a little bit up from the bleak picture that we were first looking at through COVID-19. We'll continue to work on that and work hard on that. So all my reports are on file.
Any questions for our township manager? If not, we'll move on to our commissioner's report, and we'll start with our vice chairman, Joe Bacco.
Thank you. This Saturday, there's a shredding event, October 10th, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, Fury Road in front of the police station. People must wear masks and remain in vehicle. Following Saturday, there's a October 17th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There is a household hazardous waste. Fury Road main parking lot. People must register and follow guidelines. Attached are the guidelines so you can read them. I'll read them to you. New HHW event procedures and guidelines. Pre-registration is required. Register on Eventbrite now to secure a time slot. HTTP, it's Delco hhwevents.eventbrite.com. We'll have this on the website, all right, George? Yeah. Okay. The new PADEP rules require no more than 250 participants at any given time. The event will be monitored to ensure compliance. Only one person per household per car. Masks must be worn, and please remain in your vehicles. This will be a no-contact event. All HHW items must be in the trunk, cargo area of an SUV or the bed of a truck. HHW staff will remove all items. Do not leave your vehicle. Some other things going on, or is the road program actually starts tomorrow on Cherry Tree Road. They're going to be installing the speed, I don't know what these ones called, bumps, whatever they're called. And the leaf collection starts next week. Place it curbside on your regular trash day. And they have to be in the biodegradable bags, right? No plastic trash bags. That's all I have.
Any questions for Commissioner Baco? Not?
Just a note real quick, I received an email yesterday that we were selected again for 2021 as a site for a household hazardous waste event from the county. So that's 4 years in a row we've been selected.
Thank you. Let's move on to Commissioner Whitaker's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All reports are on file. The recreation report for this month. We had a few rentals of the field house rentals, and we collected $8,491.50. Community center rented, we earned $1,400 from that. Like a total income for the month of August was $10,466.50. Couple events that are coming up in October for recreation is the movie. So we have partnered with the Chichester School District for Halloween event. So they're going to be trunk or treats. Again, a little different this year. The treats will be in the trunk of cars, and children can go around. They're going to try to bag them, put them in bags, so that we're just giving them a bag of candy as opposed to how we normally do it. So they'll have that, and that'll be at 6 o'clock at the Chichester High School parking lot. Social distancing, obviously, mask and hand sanitizer. Costumes are optional. After they do the treats, they'll be showing a movie. So it's a family movie, drive-in, and the name of the movie is Paranorman. So it's a little fun, like a animated scary show. Not scary, but scary for kids.
I think they're playing Hocus Pocus though.
And a second movie is going to be Hocus Pocus. So that's a PG-13. So if you have little kids, they're going to set up the parking so that families that have smaller kids, you'll be in the rear so that you can leave if you don't want to see the second movie that's a PG-13. So that's what we have planned for Halloween. They also have the Paws in the Park, their virtual 3K walk. So this is all the information is on our website. Just trying to read it for you here for the residents that are watching. So it's October the 16th, Friday to Sunday. You take your pet for a walk. You need to register by October the 9th. You'll receive a t-shirt. The t-shirts are sponsored by, or this event is sponsored by Kelly Landscaping. Okay, to register, or if you have any questions, you want to email Brian Warren, the rec director, at bwarren@upperchitwp.org. Again, all this information is found on the township's website. You all have a copy of the October Heart and Soul Leadership Team report in your file, as well as a library report. That's all I have.
Any questions for Commissioner Whitaker? I'd just like to adjust one thing in the library report. There's a section in there that, under old business, about concerning, but there was no update from myself about the Kingsman Road area site. Again, I just want to remind the board that over this past summer, I did email Dawn Daniels, and I had indicated to her that there was a low interest within that community with the response letters that we got back in support of putting a potential library at the Kingsman Park. I did email her. I have not heard, I didn't hear back from her. I did say that the board would extend it. I believe we extended it for a month or so. George, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't received any more additional letters. So I'd just like to officially respond to them tonight that my opinion is that there's not enough support within the community on Kingsman Road and Thornton Road and Fleming to put a library there.
And where is that at on the report?
In your library report, it says old business.
okay, I
No,
see
no,
old
no,
business.
no update from Mike Gaudioso concerning Kingsman. So I just want to officially respond to it tonight.
So, Joe, you were at that meeting where that was discussed? This looks like it was.
This is the August meeting?
It says August meeting.
Yes. September meeting, I had a conflict.
Okay. And so, when did you send that email?
I can find it, Nicole.
Send it again.
Yeah, I have to.
She didn't get it.
I copied Joe Neary on it, so hopefully he remembers me sending it out.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I mean, you don't have to do it now. I
Yeah.
just want, if you can find it, please resend it, because maybe she didn't receive it, or if these are minutes from the from the August meeting, maybe the email was sent in transition to having this done, so, we could talk about that in our next, at the next meeting.
Right.
Okay, one other thing I forgot to mention really quickly, is that the recreation department has, a couple interns, George? One right now, okay. So they have an intern that's working 20 hours a week, and they also started a junior rec board, and they received 4 applications so far. So this is ideally for high school students. So the application deadline is October the 16th, if there's anyone interested in being on the junior rec board. Thank
I
you.
might have some interest in that.
Okay, thank you.
That's it,
I'm meeting with a, scout next week. So I'll recommend that.
It's an unpaid internship for credit for school.
We know.
All right, we'll move on to Commissioner Ed Rakowski. Thank you, Ms. Whitaker.
Thank you. Reports on file. I have to get the fire marshals up here for us. They were waiting for the fire department to get their reports to them. We met with the EMS for the budget. They're going to meet with us again prior to our budget meeting. Emergency management, he has their report. They're back meeting. They took the summer off. As needed, they would meet. I do know that I thought I saw the vest in the office the other day, so their new vest did come in. Also, a little progress with the Upper Chichester Fire Department, and we had our meeting
Tuesday.
besides that one, the week before, prior to that, a couple of weeks prior, over at the 452 building for the discussion of the study. I think it opened up the doors for everyone, communication on everybody, the presidents, the committee themselves, and the chiefs. Mike and I were there Tuesday night. Again, we're still trying to get some kind of a plan together. But they are working on their bylaws as one for all 3 fire companies. And they're still running out of Station 10, which is a Boothman Fire Company, and everything seems to be working out that way, and they just want to keep proceeding forward. So we'll let you know next time we meet with them. if they have any ideas or anything like that. But other than that, it's in their floor. Right now, for the month of October and the first week in November, they'll be meeting for their bylaws. So Mike and I don't really need to be there. That's between the fire companies and their internal membership to vote on that. So other than that, that is it.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Rakowski? All right, if not, we'll move on to Commissioner Joe Neary.
Thank you, Mr. President. The financial reports for the month are available in the office and are in your file, as well as the Upper Chichester Township Police Department monthly report is available. As Ed mentioned, there have been several budget meetings. We met with the ambulance crew the other day, and we also did 4 or 5 others, licenses and inspections, well, planning and library. Right. That was the big one I'm missing. Okay. I also wanted to announce that there were 24 people who took the police exam the other evening, and the police agility exam is this Saturday morning. And that is all I have.
Any questions for Commissioner Neary? Yes.
I could let Chief Bush answer that specifically, okay?
Thank you. If not, we'll wrap up with my report. I'd just like to thank the board for moving on the motions for the maintenance for the sound barrier wall. I appreciate that. That's located within my ward. I sent an email out today to Charlie Romali, our zoning officer, to review the zoning map that Lisa had prepared. It's an updated map. So I will talk to Charlie next week and with Lisa to see the status of that. Commissioner Rakowski, did you receive a copy yet? Did you? Okay. Okay. We talked about Jake breaks last week. That is with the state. As our solicitor indicated, they're in the process of reviewing it. We talked about bus shelter agreement last week. Mr. Needles is working on that along with our solicitor. And I'd like to know if there's any update on Kingsman Road paving regarding Chester Water.
I seen them working there today. I don't know what they were
Well,
doing.
I know they're working, but my concern was getting the
So-
road paved, which I don't think is going to happen.
So the road is being paved, fortunately for us, by Steve Cole, AF Damon, who is also the contractor who will be in town paving our roads for our road program. So my assumption is that's going to be done he's going to be paving that road at that time. The last contact with Chester Water was that they were not going to be able to pave the entire road. However, this could be something that we look at as, as a cost-sharing opportunity to get that done.
If there's, I know we're in the middle, and I know we're in the process of a road paving program now. If there's any way that we can get this done this year through that, if there's any extra money with liquid fuels, if the board consider it, I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just asking.
Can we, can we really put pressure on them? I mean, has anybody been out there to see that? It's like, the houses are so close. And it's almost impossible not to do. They're doing probably
It's
7.
harder to do the pieces
Than it is,
to do it all.
and it's almost like they're doing almost 70% of the road. So,
So in the grand scheme of things, even if this has to come from the general fund budget, right? There is, you don't have a better time to get it done. The equipment's already mobilized, the equipment's there, your cost sharing is, I mean, this would be the best.
I agree with that. We'll figure out how to, I mean, maybe we take it from him in next year's group, whatever, but get it done now.
We did send a letter in support for them for not being purchased by Aqua too, so maybe they can help us out. Anyway, I really don't have anything else. I'd just like to make one note concerning our rec department. With COVID-19 being upon us, I just want to say that I think Brian's been doing a great job for us. He's been generating revenue for us throughout these months, as Commissioner Whitaker mentioned. And he's been given a outlet for people to come to during this time. So I just want to say thank you to him publicly.
Verify that. I got yelled at Saturday for walking in the building, not getting my temperature taken. Whoever was here in the gym.
So
Are we open to the public yet? I mean, our own residents yet, or is there a time period in between?
Yeah, we're open from, we say 9 a.m., but we're really open maybe 2 p.m. and then we reopen now from 4 to 6 on certain days. So we're building it up as time allows.
all right. Are there any questions for me? All right. If not, any new business? All right. No new business. Have a motion to adjourn? Beat you to the punch. No, go ahead.
At Commissioner Kowski, did you set up a meeting to discuss the resolution that was on the agenda last month?
Not with the gentleman that was here that night? No, not with him yet. No, I just read all three of them. That was my concern at that night, to read all three first, and then I will sit down with them. I have no problem. Right?
Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Motion is carried.
It.